I will call your names, and I will start with Miss Rhoda Israelov, please.
Good morning, all. From Indianapolis, Indiana. I represent Say It For You. And what we do is we write what you read when you go on our clients' websites. Our goal is to show visitors that they are in the now and in the know. So we say it for you. Right now, I am looking for retailers who have more than one location and who are interested in their one website that promotes the service or the product that they are seeking to vend. So we say it for you.
Thank you, Rhoda. Nick Sullivan, please.
There we are. Take two. Nick Sullivan, Business Solutions here in Raleigh, North Carolina, can work across the nation. I help businesses capture specialized tax incentives and cost reduction opportunities to increase cash flow and profitability of their commercial property owners, if they hire employees such as veterans, or they do research and development, and many other types of areas that we explore. I complement that with Legal Shield, the leader in legal and identity theft plans. Instead of paying high hourly fees, our customers pay small monthly fees to have access to attorneys and a team of licensed investigators for identity theft. A good referral this week, looking for businesses that have account receivables, because our legal plans have debt collection letters. And if that's a problem for a business, instead of paying high percentage of their fees to collectors, they can use us for helping them collect those monies. Again, it's Nick Sullivan Business Solutions, protecting businesses and their bottom lines.
Thank you, Nick. Jerry Luco, please.
Good morning. Jerry Luco, and from kind of sunny Columbus, Ohio. And my business is Franchise Business Source. So I help wannabe business owners match them up to franchise businesses that meet their financial and their lifestyle and personal requirements. So it's not all about, can I afford it? It's about the right fit for you and what you want out of a business. I guide them through the entire process, from the initial identification all the way through to honestly making sure they get funding, which has been a real fun process this week with a couple of candidates, and hooking them up with a lawyer to review their franchise disclosure document, getting them commercial realtor contacts in particular cities. So really full service to make sure that they get started off on the right foot. Jerry Luca, Franchise Business Source.
Thank you, Jerry. David Garrison, please.
Good morning. I'm Dave Garrison with Mutual Omaha Reverse Mortgage. I'm speaking from near Indianapolis, Indiana, a little city called Martinsville. I work with senior citizens, those of age 62 and better, and their advisors and their real estate agents in using a reverse mortgage to leverage housing wealth to either purchase a home or to improve liquidity, reduce risk in their retirement income plans.
Thank you, David. I'm trying to answer all the chats people are sending me also at the same time. All righty, Mr. John Vandersall.
Good morning. John Vandersall, residential real estate agent with the FC Tucker Company, Indianapolis, Indiana. FC Tucker operates just in Indiana and Northern Kentucky, although we are a founding member of leading real estate companies of the world. So we have relationships with brokerages like ours in every state and over 100 countries. So should you have a friend, family, or coworker who's in need of a real estate agent out of town or looking to purchase a second property in another country, I can happy to help with a referral that way. If you see my head on a swivel today, I'm home, and I took in a lost and found dog a couple weeks ago. So he's still acclimating to his surroundings, and I'm acclimating to his whereabouts. So anyway, John Vandersall with FC Tucker.
Thank you, John. For those of you who don't know me, kids and animals are right up there with me. So I'm proud of you, John, but you and Jerry have something in common, but it won't be me. Mr. Gerald Cowan, please.
Hey, good morning, lawyer Gerald L. Cowan, law offices near Indianapolis. Practiced law for more than 30 years. Hopefully I've made all the mistakes that can be made. Try not to make them again. I do estate planning, wills, trusts. I settle estates when people get promoted. It's mass chaos when someone passes away, and someone needs to be there to guide them through the process of settling the estate or the trust or both. I also review leases, commercial leases, franchise agreements, having spent 5 years in the home office of Burger Chef Systems in Indianapolis, which is now called Hardee's, most all over the country. And by the way, we put over 100 stores in the state of Ohio, Jerry. And anyway, I'm around. I am recovering from COVID because of people not wanting to make contact. So for a limited time, I'm offering 50% off estate planning, 50% off. If you have an interest there, get your affairs in order, satisfy your family, and have peace of mind. Gerald Cowan, Indianapolis, lawyer, IR1.
Thank you, Gerald. I got nothing for that. Adele, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adele Bush. My business is ASB Business Services LLC, and we're live in Columbus, Ohio. My business is very specialized because I do what a lot of business owners don't like to do or they don't know how to do well. We make business-to-business, professional, executive-style telephone calls. Our calls make a difference. When we connect with businesses on your behalf, we can get them to listen. We can get them to understand who you are, what you do, and take the relationship to the next level. A good referral for me would be a sales leader, someone in the sales business that wants to keep their pipeline full. They have a lot of leads, but they don't have time to contact them. I can do the research. I can make the contacts for you and help you in your sales journey. Adele Bush with ASB Business Services LLC, Columbus, Ohio. We can work anywhere in the United States.
Thank you, Adele.
Thank
Doug Peacock is visiting us this week. So, Doug, if you would, please.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm a little new to this. My name is Doug Peacock. I'm also in Fortville, Indiana, close to Indianapolis. My company is Peacock Wealth Group, and I didn't start it that way. I was a football coach for 38 years and found a lot of my players were covered up with student loan debt. So I literally got a hold of a guy named Nelson Nash, which was infinite banking, and I learned to get them out of debt very, very quickly. And that's how it all started. And then it proceeded to other things. So not only does it get them out of debt, it also gives them control of the banking function in their life, and they get to build wealth off the radar screen of the IRS. And I found out those are very, very popular things with a lot of people.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. I don't know why, but you sound like my old coach.
I'm hard to hide.
long as you're not going to hit me upside the head like he did, we're going to be okay.
No, sir. Those days are over, but head slaps were legal when I played.
Yeah, well, I've lost a little bit of memory because of it, but I got slapped a lot, buddy. I didn't pay much attention. So, hey, with that, we got a couple of minutes before before David takes over. Hey, I did want to talk just a minute about my travel to New Orleans. 3 things I ran into. One is that hiring situation. That thing is real, particularly in the service industry. And I'm not sure what will make that needle move in terms of getting people to want to come back to fill these low pay positions. Got into a big argument with one of my friends as to whether or not subsidies keep people from coming back, or whether the issue is the industry, the service industry, which offered no benefits and low wages, combined with the fact that people had a little time to think, maybe that. And then from an economic standpoint, I I don't know if many of you listen to NPR, but there was a big in-depth discussion by a group of economists that, yes, the government stimulus was part of it, but also the wages are being forced up by these warehouses and other industries, and people are not returning to these low-wage jobs. And the reason that's important to us is that, as we business owners look at hiring entry-level positions, it's going to cost us more money. At the end of the day, it's going to cost us more money. Where you used to could get that $10, $12 an hour person, you may be forced up to the, $14, $16 an hour. I don't know what that means to some of you, but if you're in that end of that business, that may be your reality now. So I just thought that was an interesting thing and an interesting observation. Quick comment from anybody before we bring in David on this low wage earners. What do you think?
I know I've got 3 girls in mid to late 20s to early 30s. And, frankly, they would leave low wage jobs to go someplace else that paid them a little bit more. But the flip side of that is that they would stay at a job that had a slightly lower wage, but some benefits to go along with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like 2 of them actually went to work at a childcare, and the wage was, it was about $11.50, so it wasn't awful, but they got free childcare. My daughter works at Starbucks. She's at like 14 something an hour, but she gets free coffee. She gets free Spotify. So sometimes it's the benefits as well as the wages.
Yeah. That was just a commentary that I just wanted to make, because that's going to affect us all. Those people who provide those low wage jobs, sooner or later are going to have to raise it. And your hamburger is going to be, you're going to be looking at, on the streets, McDonald's, $6, $7, $8 hamburgers. That's going to be the consequence, wage inflation, et cetera. I'm not going to beat a dead horse to death, because David's going to be talking on his topic, but that's something we might want to just discuss at some point. What do we do and how do we deal with that? With that, I would like it is now going to be the David Doerrier. And David, once again, if I screw that name up, just straighten me out. But it's now your show. So you are now in charge, David. If you would introduce yourself, give us your topic, and you're now in charge. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Keith. First of all, can you all hear me okay? Okay, I can see Jerry shaking her head. Adele, thank you. Thank you, Keith, for inviting me to be a part of this group. And Rhoda, thank you very much. And a big shout out to Rhoda. I met Rhoda at a networking event 6-8 months ago. And since then, we have developed a great relationship. She's helped me with my website. She's helping me write blogs. She introduced me to a great web developer. I've recently moved my website out of Weebly into WordPress. So thank you, Rhoda, for not only being a great part of my business, but also inviting me to be here today. A couple of things I'd like to talk about to kind of set the stage for today. On your screen, one of the best ways to view me and the PowerPoint today is to make sure that you have it set up in speaker view. Up at the very top right-hand corner of your Zoom, you'll see a little waffle that says view. If you click on that, you'll also see an option for speaker view, so you'll see all the slides in as large as possible. So what are we going to be doing today? It's all, as you saw in the title, speaking and talking and telling ain't training or selling. There's a lot of ways to come across to your audience to engage your audience. Keith and I had a great discussion the other week about different things that he felt would be important to include in this presentation about engagement. And some of those Some of those engagement techniques are as simple as the camera angle, how well people can hear you, the quality of your camera, as well as what's in your background or what's not in your background. All those little things say different things to your audience. Everybody is going to have different perceptions of not only you, but maybe about your background, about your expertise, just based on the camera quality, the sound quality. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about in ways to engage your audience. But what I'm going to look at today is something a little bit deeper about engagement, and that's the adult learning theory. I'm going to get into my background in just a little bit about how I was introduced to the adult learning theory. But what I want to do now is learn a little bit about you. In the chat, I'd like to know how you are currently presenting to your audience. Are you a salesperson? Are you a trainer? Are you a coach? How are you interacting with your audience? Is your audience one-on-one? Are you talking to a group of people? So in the chat, just briefly, let me know how you are coming across to your audience, or maybe not how you're coming across to them, but how are you addressing them? While you're doing that, here's a little bit about myself. That's my beautiful wife, Donna, in the picture, and myself before the beard. I've been a professional Santa for 30 years. However, for 29 years, I have had a designer beard with straps and glue and everything else, which was hot as heck. That Santa suit, I would refer to it each year as a sauna suit. I would lose about 10 pounds just sweating inside that thing with a pillow and everything else. My background is also training and development. I got involved in training and development with the United States Air Force in 1995. I've also been part of radio broadcasting, theater, and what you can see there up on the screen. Additionally, in my background is I'm originally from Long Island, New York. Traveled the world for 28 years with the Air Force before I ended up here just outside of Atlanta in Alpharetta. One of the things that I discovered very early on in my training career, prior to coming to the Air Force and as a trainer, I was a subject matter expert, being in the logistics field for 28 years. I had a theater background, I had radio broadcasting background, but all of that was a great part of the foundation that I needed to engage my audience. Being a subject matter expert, having a theater background, having a radio background, none of that makes me an expert trainer. So I had to go out and had to learn how to facilitate, how to connect with my audience. Jeff, thank you very much. Coach Keith into sales. Adele is an advisor. Thank you, Adele. Rhoda talked one-on-one to prospects. And Nick, consultant and sales and texting, phone calls, and in person. Thank you, John. So a little bit of how you are connecting to your audience. What we're going to talk about today, we will look at it more so from a virtual standpoint, but these same principles you can use when you're on stage, if you're meeting someone one-on-one, if you are coaching or mentoring others, these principles are going to be very beneficial to you. At any time, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, raise your hand. I'll be happy to address your question as we go along. We've got 30 minutes today to tell you everything and anything there is about teaching adults or working with adults. Now, let me say this, may use the term teaching or training or a trainer. These same principles that I've used for years to help me in the classroom connect to my audience, the same principles that I've taught other trainers to use are the same things that every salesperson, every leader who's running a meeting can use these same facilitation skills. There are three things that all adults are looking for in again, learning environment or an engagement, and they need to be motivated. They need to understand why, and why am I learning this? Why do I need to understand this? Why do I need to know this? They also need interaction. Can you give me some examples of how, and you can unmute your microphone for this, how are you, or give me some examples of of how to interact or how to engage an audience. Can you give me some examples around that?
You can ask them questions.
Ask them questions. Great, great. I see Jerry shaking her head.
Tell stories.
Tell stories. Who said that? Nick, was that you? So tell me a little bit about why storytelling is important.
Well, it establishes our relatability. You know, they always say facts tell, stories sell, you know, so it's it allows them to kind of put themselves in their own world and think about similar situations.
Great example. Thank you, Nick. Anyone else on in ways to engage your audience?
In my, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gary.
No, Rhoda, you're first.
Okay, in a virtual presentation recently, what I did was take a prop. So for example, I used a pinwheel to show spin and how you put spin on something. And then I invited the audience to look around their own office where they were virtually, pick something that symbolized part of their work.
Right.
And explain it.
Great examples. Great examples. Using, getting them to use something that they have themselves. You're getting them to do something. You're making it relevant to the topic, and Nick as well relevant. Adele, you were going to say something.
Yes, I always try to use personal experiences to relate to my audience.
Right. Definitely those personal experiences, because now they have that emotional connection of they can think about, for example, if I'm teaching presentation skills and want to help someone work through that fright that they have on stage, if we're having a discussion around how they were feeling at that time on stage, a lot of those same anxiety feelings are coming up. So they know what it feels like to be anxious. So my job now is to take them is to show them ways how to work through that. So all great examples. I like what Nick brought up. I like Rhoda, what you brought up, Adele, all of you, Keith as well. But it's that emotional piece of connecting to your audience, using a poll, using the chat, which we demonstrated just a moment ago, question and answer, making it relevant to your audience. All great ways to engage your audience. Again, we've got 30 minutes, so let me press on. These are the three things that all adults are looking for, not only in a learning situation, but in a meeting. They want to be engaged in the meeting, in the sales process. It's not just someone just doing a data dump about all the great things about this product. We need to see, does this product even fit your lifestyle? Is this something that you're even interested in? That's one of the things that is a big turnoff for me. If I'm being sold on something and I have no interest in it, or the salesperson took no time at all to understand who I was and what my needs were. So it's the same thing here. And the final is the instructional method. Not only does the presenter need to have good basic foundational speaking and presenting skills, but they also have to have a basic understanding of the adult learning theory. And I'm going to get into some basics of it in just a moment. But as far as I'm concerned, from where I'm sitting, having an understanding of how adults retain information, what they're looking for in a learning or engagement situation, I think is at the foundation of not only creating your presentation, but eventually presenting it. So what is the adult learning theory? The adult learning theory has been around for years. It's depending on whose version of it you look at it or you read about, it may look or read a little bit differently. But this gentleman here, Malcolm Knowles, is what I would consider, and the internet considers, the father of the adult learning theory. He has his process for the adult learning theory, and over the years, it's been changed and modified visually. The objectives of the adult learning theory are always the same: engaging your audience, getting your message to stick. As a trainer, my job was always the topics that I would train when I was in corporate were software skills to both internal and external customers who were buying our software products, and soft skills training. As a trainer, it wasn't just vomiting information to my audience and giving them a great lunch. It was also about I had to deliver that information in a way where the trainee had to be able to take that information, go back to their desk, and immediately apply it. So do you feel that if a presenter is just doing a data dump, do you feel that the trainees will be effective when they get back to their desk? Probably not. So the only way to ensure that they will be effective is to make the content relevant, which Jerry said earlier, and I think the others said, creating stories, exercises, and engaging the audience so it sticks. So let's look at this is my visual of the adult learning theory. If you go to my website, presentyourwaytosuccess.com, you can download a free copy of my ebook that goes into more detail of the adult learning theory. But we're going to just scratch the surface of this thing. First, let me give you an example or describe what you're looking at. On the outside of this graph are 8 principles that all adults are looking for in every training, engaging situation. And we're going to talk about 3 of them in just a moment. The ones on the inside, just briefly talk about, are the differences with adults. One of the big ahas when I was training, well, I still train trainers to train and also train salespeople to engage their audience. And one of the big ahas from especially new folks, even seasoned folks, is that we're not all the same. We're all different. Every single one of us learns, hears, retains information differently. One of the things with trainers that I've come across thousands of times, I learned this way, so everybody else must learn exactly the same way. I'm an auditory person, so everybody must be an auditory person. So one of the big ahas is everybody's different. So here, incorporating a combination of auditory and visual to back up, to reinforce your learning or reinforce your coaching for those visual learners. On the inside, you'll also see whole versus parts. This is individuals who they need to know the whole picture. I need to know everything from beginning to end. Have you ever worked or had a client or a prospect that asks 1,000 questions? I'm that guy. I ask 1,000 questions. That's how I learn. That's how I need to see it in my head. I need to visualize it. I need to really feel why this is important. That's my learning style. That's the whole person. The parts is, just give me this piece, this piece, this piece. I'm good. I'm good to go. And then the other part of what you saw on the inside is where they're working on their own, individual versus group. Here, where learners will work well in groups of people, or they'll work well on their own. So let me stop there for a moment and see what questions you might have. We've talked about the adult learning theory. I've introduced myself. I've learned a little bit about you. Anything come to mind at this point that you'd like to ask a question or talk about?
I realize.
Go ahead, Rhoda.
I realize in listening to you that I am a parts person, in the sense that if you were teaching me about a new software program, I don't want to know the whole program. Please don't put that in my head. I just want to know the piece that I need to work with right now.
Right. Cool. Good. Excellent example. And someone else had something.
I had a comment. When I'm working, when I'm working with people about estate planning or in the settlement of an estate or trust after someone has gotten promoted, does everybody know what it means to get promoted? Okay, good. What thoughts do you have briefly? I know this could go all day on easing into that topic, just off the top of your head.
So easing into the topic of promotion, is that the question?
Yeah, dying is what I mean by promotion. Estate planning, someone dies, settle the estate, settle the trust, or when they come in and they want to have a will or trust drafted, and it reminds them of the fact they're not going to be around, so they're not real motivated to get it done because it costs them money and they're going to be gone when everything happens. They think.
Let me come back to this at the end. This because it's a great question, and I'd like to address it, but it's going to take some time, and I want to get back to our the prepared stuff. Is that okay, Gerald?
That's fine, or we could do it outside of this Zoom call.
Perfect. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat and be happy to have a discussion around that.
Thank you.
So, and one of the things, before I go forward, I think there was one other person that may have something, a question or something.
I'll throw out a quick.
Go ahead.
Quick question, David. Yeah, just on your last point, right? The two different individuals, one who will take one step at a time, one who wants to know everything up front. My sell or purchase process is a 45-day at minimum, up to 90 days, up to 45 months. That person who needs to know, wants to know everything that's going to happen from my crystal ball. How do you reel them back or suggest, hey, listen, let's take one day at a time?
Yes, that's another great question. It's just very quickly with this I like what you said. You outlined the benefit that when we get to the very end, we're going to achieve this. For us to achieve that, we need to take this one step at a time. And throughout the process, if I see we're starting to get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to continue to bring us back. So that goes to setting that stage up front and then reiterating or reemphasizing or talking about that, continuing to bring that up as you go through the process. Does that help? Okay. All right, cool. Great questions. So let me dive in. This first one is going to address what Jerry was talking about. And Jerry, I wanted to mention my first job on Long Island, New York, was working for a Hardee's. Okay. And let's see. All right. So I'm going to talk about one of the pieces, and that's the principle of ownership. And this may address some of what Jerry was talking about. It's so what you're reading. Let me ask this question: based on what you're reading on the screen, and the word ownership being a principle of adult learning, what do you think that this means? Anyone have an idea of how this fits into adult learning, the principle of ownership? Just raise your hand if you have a response. Jerry, go ahead.
Jerry Luca, right? Girl Jerry.
Girl Jerry.
I was interpreting it as owning the need to learn.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Yes. So in this case here, if we were to look at it from a sales sales perspective, is this a product that I'm interested in? Does this have any value to me? The same thing with learning. Adults, if there's no value in learning this, they're going to tune out. Have you ever been in a situation where you were listening to a speaker or a trainer or a facilitator, and the topic you had no interest in the topic? Have you ever had that? Yes. And what did you do? Went to lunch. Exactly. You got out of there. So the principle of ownership is all about I'll use the term learner. It's all about the learner taking responsibility for wanting to learn this. So this could be along with a part of what Jerry's talking about. Is here we're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject, a subject that a lot of people don't even want to talk about. They don't even want to think about it. So there has to be the with them. What's in it for me? So when we get to the very end of this process, what value is there in going through the process of talking about the dying or promoting? I'll give you an example where I had to use this had to use it every time I taught because I had to show the value. But an extreme example, when I was teaching software, go to a hospital, teaching the administrative staff, the billers, on how to use this new financial piece of software. They love the old software. They love the old process. I'm talking to a group of people that all know each other. They all work together. They love each other. Some guy upstairs about 14 stories high up in the penthouse made the decision, we're buying this new product. These people in the room they were not involved in the decision-making process. So now, as you can imagine, I'm teaching to a hostile group of people. None of them want to learn. My job as a facilitator is to create the conversation in a way that's going to show them the value. What's in it for them? Why do you need to change? It's not, well, you got to do it because it's part of your job. It's more than that. What's the value? So that's where the principle of ownership, and that's part of what you have to do, Jerry. Is it Jerry or Gerald? What do you prefer?
Take your choice.
Take your choice. So Jerry, that's part of setting that stage. What's in it for me? That when we get to the end of this process, I realize it's difficult. I realize it's not something you want to talk about. It's not something that you were planning, however you want to approach it. But when we get to the end, this is the payoff.
Yeah, peace of mind for them, and they've benefited their family greatly.
Exactly. So that's that in a nutshell is the principle of ownership. Going to look at another one. I think we've talked about this one already. Yes, during the introduction, is that your content has to be relevant. I believe that a presenter that has poor speaking skills, but the content is relevant, they will be able to engage their audience. Now, I do feel that after a period of time with those poor speaking skills, people will start to fade away. But at the beginning, if it's engaging or not engaging, if it's relevant, people will listen. So that at the core, your content has to be relevant. Jerry, the girl Jerry earlier was saying of making it of personal stories. Others were saying that as well. So we've talked about relevance, your content being relevant. We also talked about the principle of ownership, that the learner or the participant has to take ownership in that learning or engagement. And it's our responsibility as a presenter to show them the with them, what's in it for me. The next one I'm going to look at is the one that I have the most fun with, because here I get us to think about a swimming pool. The principle of complexity. You have a shallow end of the pool and there's a deep end of the pool. In a learning situation, the deep end of the pool represents all the complex processes, complex analogies, complex stories, examples, demonstrations. All of the complexities of this process or topic are down there at the deep end of the pool. Have you ever been in a training situation where you were a participant, or maybe you were sitting on the other side of the desk from a salesperson, and they dove straight into the deep end of the pool? I see Keith, yes, Rhoda, others, Nick smiling, everybody shaking their heads. How did that make you feel?
Tune out, go away.
Tune out, go away, go to lunch, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The principle of complexity is all about understanding where is the participant, what is their current proficiency level. Are they more down at the shallow end of the pool? Or if they are at the deep end of the pool, that's fine. But if I didn't know that and dove straight into the deep end of the pool, I'd lose my audience.
Yeah.
So the principle of complexity, understanding where your audience is. So what are some ways that you feel that you can learn the current proficiency level of your audience? How could you do that?
You did it a little bit today because you asked us, what does this word mean to you? And depending on the responses, that gives you an idea of who's in the audience.
Good. Thanks, Rhoda. Thanks. Yes, that's certainly one way, taking a poll up front. Good example. Any other ways that you can learn your audience? Adele.
Study the industry that your audience represents.
Okay, good. Study the industry. Great example.
Yeah. Talk to the person that you made the scheduled the meeting with, if it's a decision maker or the reason why, and then that they want you to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Thank you, Nick. And I would say that definitely piggybacks on what Adele said, not only first understanding the industry, but talking to the organizer and understanding what are the specific needs of this group here. Any other ways that you can gauge your audience?
I think it's like a lead-in line or a title for a blog in a way, where at a recent Financial Planning Association meeting, we were treated to an hour-long presentation about property casualty insurance, which is the most boring thing ever to me. But the guy said something up front. This is what he said. It's all the same until you have a claim. And that so grabbed me. You know, I'm thinking about that. I wanted to know more the minute I heard that line. So the opening statement in a presentation is needs to grab you.
Yeah. Yes. Certainly. Yes. And that is one of the principles. We didn't talk about that primacy and recency of impactful openings and impactful closures. Very good. But it sounds like in this case, he grabbed your attention up front, but then lost you with all the data.
Yeah, he did later on. Yes.
Exactly. So he did keep you. So good examples. Sending out a survey beforehand, surveying your audience. Adele had a great suggestion. Understanding the industry. Nick, talking to the organizer, understanding what the group needs. All great ways of understanding of where the proficiency level is. Continuing on with principle of complexity, along with understanding where they currently are, the other part of it is making sure that we keep people in the pool. We don't lose them along the way. So one of the ways to do that is to create transitions. Now, if it's appropriate to the way that you're presenting. For example, we talked about the adult learning theory, that it's been around since 1968, with Malcolm Knowles being the father of the adult learning theory. There's many different interpretations of the adult learning theory, but at the core of it, it's all about engaging your audience. I gave you an example of what mine looks like, but still has the same objective of what Malcolm Knowles was going for. So now that we understand a little bit about how to make the content relevant, how to also get our audience to own it, let's move on to the next topic. I use this opportunity as kind of an example of how to create those transitions. Another way of incorporating that transition is to also incorporate my audience in that as well. So, and I hope I was able to explain that or demonstrate that. One bonus part, I said I was only going to give you 3 pieces. Well, I'm giving you the bonus, the principle of repetition. So I hope I was able to demonstrate that to you as well. So we looked at the adult learning theory, looked at what it is. We had 30 minutes to go through this. You asked some great questions. You all gave me some ways that you currently now are working with your audience, some ways to stay in touch with me. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, on Twitter. I also have an online radio station, cliradio.com. It's all 60s and 70s album-oriented rock. And you can go to my website and download my ebook, presentyourwaytosuccess.com, or use the short version, pywtsuccess.com. I'm at my time limit, so I'm going to open the floor up for Q&A.
Hey, David, first, just want to say, hey, thank you for your presentation. I'm a little bit smarter than I was before. One quick question. This concept of whole versus part. When you are a manager and you are a part deliverer of information to workers who may need whole, we've got some built-in conflict there, or vice versa. Workers want every step. You're like, I don't want to be bothered with that. Just go do your job, right? I mean, that's what it looks like on the work site. For management, or if you're looking at that from the outside, how do you tell management that's not a smart thing? And then what would you recommend?
So let me understand it. You have leaders that are conducting meetings. The folks that are in the meeting are a combination of parts and whole learners. The facilitator is a part learner, so they're delivering the information in only parts. Okay.
Gaps.
Well, the first thing that I feel has to happen is that leader has to understand the differences in people. The other thing that I would want to ask, are your meetings effective? The reason I'm using now the principle of ownership here, and that is I want to ask questions to the point where they start seeing the problems. Well, yeah, every meeting, there's always 3 or 4 people that always come back to me with a bunch of questions. Well, what do you think's causing that? Getting them to discover. So the only way it's going to change is that individual has to change, and the WIFM, what's in it for me? We're going to have more effective meetings. You're never going to have people coming back to you again. The projects are going to get done on time. So that's where I would start with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else with a question?
Yeah, I mean, when you do a presentation, I find that if someone tries to make 20 different points, that most people will forget everything. I mean, not even remember one because the 20 confuse each other, versus someone who says, I'm just going to tackle 2 or 3 things and I want them to remember them when they leave. What's your view on that? How many points can you make, or how many takeaways can you have from a presentation?
Well, yes, great question. I think my first response is to understand first of all, what's the objective? If the objective is X and it takes 20 steps for someone to understand X, then you're going to have those 20 steps in there. However, I would say it's not a data dump of here are the 20 steps, vomit 20 steps, and then have a nice day. There has to be those transitions. There needs to be ways to gauge your audience to make sure that they are still with you through those 20 steps. But if only 3 steps are necessary to understand that objective, then I would say that's 3. I don't think there's a set number. However, what's important is understanding of keeping your audience with you, transitions, reviews along the way.
Yeah. Do you find when you're teaching a group of employees something, when you're actually doing training, that there's a lot of dynamics within the group themselves? So they don't want to hear somebody pontificate that they don't respect on a day-to-day basis. So how do you kind of manage what's going on there?
Okay, let me get my head around this. So me as the trainer,
yeah,
I'm part of the organization and they have some adversity to me and don't respect me?
No, among each other.
Oh, they don't respect each other.
Right.
So now they're in a learning situation where there's tension amongst themselves in the work group, but they're here to learn something being taught by me and an outside person.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, boy, you guys are good. Good question. So I would say first is to recognize the knowledge that they currently have, asking questions up front to understand what their proficiency level is. So if I have, for example, in the room, I have someone is an expert. Now, there are 2 types of experts. There's the expert, and there's the person who thinks they're the expert. So you have to define that. So if you do have an expert in the room, I would want to tap into that knowledge. For example, Rhoda, you've worked with this software before. You've had some experience with it. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with it? Hopefully that person is not the one who's causing all the anxiety in the room.
Yeah.
So I guess I would look for ways of incorporating them as much as possible in the conversation, in the learning. But that's also how I facilitate. I use a 70-30 rule. 70% of the time, the audience is engaged. Now, we only have a couple of minutes left, so there's lots of ways to engage them. Only 30% of the time, it's me facilitating them through the discussion. Every time someone contributes, I thank them. That's a great response. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something that's important, but we'll talk about that later. So acknowledging that. So what I'm trying to do is create a safe environment. That's also one of the principles on here, is the principle of effect. If you get my ebook, you'll see in the principle of effect is there's four 4-letter words that begin with the letter F that are at the core of principle of effect. Free from fear. So as a facilitator, as a salesperson, as a leader, I need to create an environment where people are not fearful in contributing. How are we doing on time?
You get a couple of minutes here. Hey, John, I think you were in the process of raising your hand.
Please, yeah, I'll share a quick thought I reminded myself of, and David, appreciate your presentation and the example of the swimming pool. For my clients who need to know the finish line before we get to the start line, buyers or sellers, I give them the visual of an iceberg. And whether it's helping the seller get an accepted offer or helping the buyer get an accepted offer, that's the tip of the iceberg. I have a lot of work on the front end, and then a lot of work to get back down to the closing table. So maybe hopefully that visual could help others in the call.
So let me add a little bit. I think having that visual is great, because as we talked about, that you have the visual learners, the auditory learners, and being able to reinforce that. Find opportunities to ask a question. In this case, the question might be, well, looking at this iceberg, you see that there's a portion at the top and there's a portion that's under the water. What do you think that portion under the water represents? What do you think this portion that's at the top, what do you think that represents? So getting them to problem solve it is another way of getting that to sink in and to stick, versus, yes, you can tell them what it is, but let them figure it out. And that's just one of millions of different examples that folks can use. So, I guess maybe Gerald, maybe there's a question in there. So when you die, what do you think folks are going to do? Do you want folks to be going through this same process when you die, or you move on to the next thing? That could be part of that question.
They're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
And with that, hey, David, thank you so much. This has been a really, really interesting conversation. Sometimes we just can't get it all done in an hour, and we just have to be really, really disciplined. This was one I think we could have extended another 30 minutes easily and had a full discussion on these kinds of presentations. So appreciate all you guys showing up this week. David, thank you so much. David's information will be on the back end of the video that's created, and his information will come to all of you on the email, in my email. I will be seeing all you guys next week, unless I'm on the road. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.